So other than being an author, you are an astrologer as well. And I must tell you that the moment people got to know that I'm going to be moderating you, almost everyone, my friend sitting here in the audience also was like, oh, she's an astrologer as well. So can I meet her later? So I think astrology really, pulls the strings. So, as an astrologer, do you see any parallels between rasas and the planetary energies? Like, do emotions are they shaped by the cosmos?
It definitely they are. So starting, we can start with moon, which is considered to be our man. It denotes our man in Vedic astrology. And as you know, that moon causes tides in the ocean. And in our body, there is 75% of water. So all our emotions are connected with the waning and the waxing of the moon, with the way the moon is, the strength of the moon in your chart, the placement, its interactions with different planets. Like it could be interacting with Mars, it will give you different reactions, and so on and so forth. So one is there, and then the sun. Sun is considered to be the Atma Karak of the horoscope. So it gives you that self-confidence. And then, of course, Saturn and so many other planets. So all the planets bring about certain situations in your life which definitely invoke these emotions, one or the other. So I would definitely say that emotions and astrology have a close connection.
Thank you so much. So tell us, while doing your research for all the various books that you have done so far, which must have been very fascinating. So drawing from mythology, philosophy, emotion, personal life experiences, I believe you also personally visited a lot of temples. So what was your process like working through this vast layered text, and how did you maintain the authenticity and yet sort of make it relevant and relatable to the youth today?
So the research process is quite difficult, but then I'm also studying a few scriptures under my teacher, and so the symbolism that I learn from there helps me further take it further into my research process. I also like hearing and reading other authors and scholars to know their viewpoint. So it gives you like a 360-degree, and then you can form your own perception. But the challenging part is that our Puranas are not standardly written, and different Purans will have the same story retold in different ways. So initially, I would get really confused, and then I decided that, okay, fine, I have to see which part of it resonates with me, or which part resonates with the thought process I want to convey today. So then I choose that. And then also, there are a lot of backstories which could be in a different text, which could be in a Ramayana or a Mahabharata, or even in a different Puran. So putting all of it together sometimes can be quite challenging. And then connecting it to the present. So I think that task, in fact, I find is not as difficult, because once you have the facts correctly of the earlier written texts, then connecting it to the present kind of becomes easy, I feel. So then basically, the kind of questions I'm thrown at by youngsters, my children and their friends or other people, they help me, choose where the connection needs to be.
So were there any questions or any personal experiences or instances that were really very interesting, or they sort of made you pause and think about it, or probably you thought of it as a divine intervention to give you a certain direction?
So this is like while writing, there's something came across.
Or probably even when you are, bombarded by questions, from the younger generation.
Yeah. So I think for me, this whole new thing that has been coming to my mind is about, people saying, oh, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. But they don't realize they can't separate the two. And it's just become a cool thing to say so, because no one goes into the real depth of what they want. So I had my son telling me that, I think meditation is better, because all this form and all, have you seen God? Or, this whole question. So I asked him one question. I said, when you sit in meditation, when you close your eyes, is your mind completely calm? So he said, no. So I said, then the meditation purpose of meditation is defeated. So this is like steps. You start with the akar, you connect with the form. That's why you have so many gods and goddesses. And that Niraakar appears to you in that form because you are connecting to that form initially. And then you can always, once, when you're mantra chanting, say you're mantra chanting a Hanuman Chalisa. While you're doing it, you're usually thinking of Hanumanji and not usually, not thinking of anything else. But the moment that gets done, you're again busy again. So I think it's a way of training your mind to just focus in on one direction, and gradually you can get rid of the form. So my favorite story here is about Ramakrishna Paramahansji, who was an ardent devotee of Kali Ma. And he used to cry in front of the mother that I have to see you, I have to see you. And he used to talk to her like a normal person, and he had his darshan regularly. And then towards the end of his life, he came into contact with Tota Ram, who was a Vedantic scholar, and he said that no, now the next step is that you remove this form from your mind. And he said, how can I do it? Like, I'm so attached to this form. And he says, okay, fine, I'll give you a sword. And when you're in meditation next time and you see Ma, you're going to cut her with the sword. And something that he achieved in 40 years of his life, Tota Ram, Ramakrishna Paramahansi attained it in 3 days because he had already reached the parakashta of devotion through a form. And then transcending that into a Niraakar was very easy for him. So it's baby steps.
Okay.
So, taking ahead from that, like you said, the young generation says that I'm spiritual but not religious, and they try to. But sometimes we feel that the young generation is not to be blamed. It's because there is so much information out there, and especially now, social media is giving them so much information, and we don't even know who the person who's giving the information, whether that person actually himself or herself is that knowledgeable. So, what would be your guidance to the young generation who is curious and who wants to know about the scriptures, about their own dharma? What is the way out? What should they read, or where should they go in order to at least start off in the right direction?
So I think one is, begin reading. But then again, reading the text will not be enough for them because they'll have questions. So they'll probably need a teacher to guide them through this whole process, maybe join a class. There's so many classes that are happening nowadays. Because again, once they start reading, of course, that'll interest them. The knowledge will grow. They will be intrigued. But they have so many questions in mind. Just reading is not going to really satiate that.
So I think, yeah, just like it's written in Gita Ji that, one needs to have a guru. So probably I think that is very relevant even today, having the right, nowadays we say mentor instead of guru. So whatever name we might want to call, but it is important to have someone who can show the right direction. So yeah, I think that's important.